This episode, I will discuss 3 gangs and a crazy beat that has been going on for years. I can't go into every incident that has happened because there has been too many incidents, but the ones I will go through will tell you the beef between these gangs is real. These 3 gangs operate out of Monrovia or Duarte. They're both 2 small cities in Los Angeles County. Duarte having around 20,000 people and Monrovia having around 30,000 people. These cities are only a few miles away, so that means they're only a few minutes apart. Even though these cities are small, they both have deadly gangs. And the 3 gangs I'm talking about is the Rocc Crips, Duarte Eastside, and Monrovia Nuevo Varrio, aka Mnv. These 3 gangs have been clashing for years, causing many incidents in these cities that will cause gang adjustments for the Durocs and the Mnvs. But Duarte and Eastside will be lucky because the city of Duarte will vote against putting one on them. The Rocc Crips have a history over 30 years. They have 2 cliques, one in the city of Duarte, which they call the low end, and a clique in Monrovia, known as the high end. The Rocc Crips are one of the gangs that is not in the city of Los Angeles that claim gangster crip, making them have good relationship with gangs like the A-Trade gangsters. They even have a good relationship with Hoover sets. They have rivals like the other 2 gangs mentioned, and they also beef with gangs like the Diver Lanes. Also neighborhood crip gangs like the Rolling 60s. Duarte Eastside also has been around for over 30 years. They have a deep beef with the Rocc Crips. You can see them dissing Duroc hard in this song. In this song, they would call the Durocs Dirt Rocks, a diss to their set, and diss their crippin' overall. The last gang I'm gonna mention in this beef is the Monrovia Nuevo Varrio, aka Mnv. With all 3 gangs losing members in this beef, I'm gonna detail cases between the Durocs, the Mnvs, and the Eastside Duartes. First incident happened February 9th, 2007 in Monrovia. Jamila Williams and her boyfriend Mario Alford and his friend Rashawn McDaniels, both members of the Rocc Crips, picked up Jamila's friend Michelle McDermott in Jamila's silver Honda. Mario was the driver and Jamila was the front passenger, and Rashawn in the back seat. After they went to eat, they would pick up another one of Mario's friends, MELVIN Members. Mario would stop at a red light, and a red car would stop to the left of them. A Latino man and woman were in the car. Mario and Melvin would begin to diss the Latino man and ask him where was he from. Melvin would pull out a gun eventually. The Latino man would try to flee and make a U-turn. Mario would have a car chase with him, but wouldn't stop once the man reached his home. The Latino man was Richard Wagner. He was taking his sister-in-law and her friends to the movies. Richard was said not to be a gang member, but recently shaved his head. That was an identifying thing that most Latino gangs did in the area. Wagner lived with his wife's family and would later take his sister-in-law and her friends to the movies after they thought the coast was clear. They took a different route and had no issues. Michelle McDermott and Jamila Williams would get a motel with the 3 men and stayed there for hours. The 3 men would leave the hotel at night. Richard Wagner's mother-in-law, Cecilia Calderon, was at home when she heard a knock at the door. She said a man in a red hoodie turned around, then the next thing she heard was gunshots, and she was hit. Richard and his wife wasn't home at the time of the shooting. They returned home after picking up his sister-in-law from the movies and seeing Cecilia on the floor suffering from gunshots to the neck, shoulder, and arm. Richard and his sister-in-law would tell police what happened earlier as a possible motive. A neighbor, Gloria, would say she seen a silver Honda flee the scene. This case would go unsolved for a year until an informant would give police info. This led to the police getting Mario Alford and locating Jamila's car. The police would later identify Michelle McDermott being there in a car earlier in the day with the 3 guys. She would tell police everything and pick 3 Duroc members out of a lineup. Mario Alford would have phone combos in jail and would be recorded. He would talk too much, dissing the Mexican race and making threats towards Jamila and Michelle if they testified against him and other Duroc members. This would be used against him. Mario Alford will receive 68 years to life. Rashawn McDaniels received 40 years to life. And MELVIN Members, he's eligible for release in 2035. Two weeks later, February 25th, 2007, Trevion Jones was walking when he seen a car with 2 men looking at him. 2 minutes later, the car will follow him and block off the street. Jose Zumaya will emerge from the car with his hands under his shirt. Trevion would run, and Jose would fire about 5 shots, but missed them all. Juanita Small was driving up the street and seeing the whole thing. Everyone in the car would be picked up the next day. At trial, Trevion and Juanita would testify and say Jose was the shooter. Jose was a member of Duarte Eastside and was shooting at Trevion because he was black. While in jail on phone calls, Jose would use the N-word referring to black people and a bunch of other comments. Jose Zumaya was sentenced to 25 to life. June 5th, 2007, Uriel Garcia and Valentin Venezuela would catch Rocc Crips behind a Smart & Final store parking lot and begin to shoot at them. Before the shooting, both men would approach a woman named Tracy Brooks and ask her if she was in a gang. She would tell them no, and they would tell her they were from Mnv. She later seen an altercation between them and the Durocs, and later them sitting in bushes. A witness, Jimmy Dixon, would see the Mnv members shoot at the Durocs and flee in a car. Garcia was a leader in the Mnv gang and had his phone calls tapped, where he would admit to the shooting and directing other members to do things. Police would bring up in court that Garcia had a vendetta against the Durocs, since they shot at him, his girlfriend, and young son. Uriel Garcia received life. The next case happened on July 13th of 2007. Carlos and his girlfriend Maria and his friend Roberto planned to go to the movies. They went to pick up another friend named Luis. They stopped and waited outside Luis' home for him to come out. Our Chrysler would pull up with a few black men and began to fire on Carlos' SUV. The first shot hit Carlos in the head. The second missed, and the Chrysler drove away. Carlos would tell police he was not a gang member. He just looked like one because of his appearance. But Carlos' brother was a member of Duarte Eastside. Carlos will also tell police the car was a Chrysler, and he knew the car to be drove by Slug, a member of the Durocs. Roberto also would say Slug and say they had run-ins with him before, where Slug would drive by and yell things. Roberto would pick him out of a lineup. 2 hours later, a Duroc member's house was shot up. Another one of Carlos' brothers was picked up, but charges were dropped. Roberto would testify in court and point Ryan Black as the shooter, a member of the Durocs. Ryan Black would receive 20 years. August 16, 2007, Jessica Quintana and her brother Jonathan and her boyfriend Diego drove to Diego's house. Jessica and Jonathan waited in the car for Diego to return. As Diego returned to the car, someone began shooting at the car. Jessica was the driver, and she ducked and tried to drive away. Diego and Jonathan dropped Jessica off and drove away for hours. Later, they would be pulled over by the police. Diego told the police about the shooting and that a black man shot out the car. Diego's sister would call the police after the shooting, but Jessica, Diego, and Jonathan were already gone. She would tell the police it had to be the Durocs, and that she heard of a name Dante being the shooter. Diego was shown a lineup of photographs and didn't identify anyone. He said he didn't want to be involved in the case, so the case was dropped, but later opened back up after more shooting occurred in the area. Jonathan would tell police there was 2 shooters, and it was someone named Seaway and Dante. Carl Robinson and Dante Moreland will be charged in this crime. Dante Moreland is eligible for parole in 2027 because of a new law for youth offenders doing crimes after 26. Both him and Carl Robinson is eligible in 2027 for the same reason. January 12, 2008, a man whose name was not said because of his age was shot at a close range, which left him paralyzed. He was riding his bike home when he noticed a burgundy car following him. He would hear from the car, "Fuck dirt rocks," a diss to Rocc Crips. The man knew the passenger as someone he went to school with, Jimmy Santana. Jimmy Santana fired the gun. The man was shot in the chest and he would fall to the ground. This would cause him needing his spleen and kidney removed and leaving him paralyzed. 5 days later, he identified Jimmy Santana as the shooter. and said Jimmy was 2 years older than him and they went to the same school. He also said Jimmy was a part of the MNV. He picked Jimmy out of a lineup after. Jimmy Santana would be arrested 2 weeks later. The shooting was 3 miles from his house. Jimmy's family would say he never left home that day, but that was determined not to be the truth. Jimmy Santana received 25 to life. This last case will be about Duroc members. Miguel Sanchez and Salvador Velasquez were walking when a Dodge Magnum made a sharp turn and headed toward them. Salvador seen the driver's side window roll down and a gun pop out. He began running and told Miguel to run as well. Salvador heard 5 shots, but Salvador would get away. But Miguel Sanchez would lose his life. The shooting took place in Duarte Eastside's hood. Salvador provided police with a description of the car. Police looked in the area and saw the Dodge Magnum with 5 men and a woman around it. Police would find a 4.5 and it will match the one that shot Miguel Sanchez. Lamar McDaniels and Joel Britt would be later arrested. In jail, Joel would be recorded and he would talk about his crimes, and this would be a bad decision for him. Joel Britt received 90 to life, and Lamar McDaniels received 90 to life as well. This will conclude this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you haven't already, check out my previous videos.